Okay, so I'm gonna respond to a couple comments. So I don't know what's going on with the comments. Some people have said that they are posting comments, but the comments aren't appearing on the thing, or they're disappearing or something. And I've seen a few comments which have then proceeded to vanish. And they're just not there anymore. And so some of the videos have, it tells you the number of comments there. So one of them says 11 comments, but there are actually only 6. So I don't know what's going on there, but the YouTube comments pardon me, function seems to be a bit glitchy. So apologies for anyone who has posted a comment and I've not got back to you. It might be because the comments disappeared. So I don't know what's going on. So Freddie, hang on, is this the first one? Let's see. Okay, yeah. So Freddie says, those pointers, so good, thanks man. Every time I check one of your videos, I lose my mind. So clear and honest. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of way to take these videos, is in it's kind of bypassing the mind. Even though we're using language and we're using pretty much concept, it's in a way it's talking past the mind, it's talking past the character, talking past the sense of self, sense of separate self, talking directly to something that includes that but isn't limited to it. That's how I could describe the losing your mind thing. It's strange, has anyone noticed this? So when, say you watch one of these videos, there's like many recognitions, many realizations, many instances of you get something, but it's just not quite clear what it is you get. It's like the mind, I've explained this loads of times, the mind comes up and goes and it tries to frame it, but it doesn't quite get a satisfying mind model way to frame it. But there's definitely something there, and you feel it on a different level, and it's clear on a different level, but it's not quite the mind, and it's not quite not the mind. Yeah, when that happens, it's strange. It's like the mind kind of comes up and tries to contextualize whatever that is that happened, that recognition, but it can't quite do it. So it's better just to drop into direct experience, or even the direct experience of the thought and what it seems to be doing. So you can see that it's trying to frame this recognition in a narrative way. It's trying to suggest that there are lots of different little downloads that are happening, and they all have their own unique values and qualities. I suppose relatively, at the level of the mind, maybe that's true, but ultimately, no, it's just the one recognition, the one existence. The mind can't really see, or that function can't really see that there is only one thought. And it's not even one thought in the way you can think about it, as in a now, one thought happening now, that then leads on to another thought happening another now, that then creates a time narrative. It's not even like that. It's like there's the one thought that is just the one thought always, and it completely transcends time. It's timeless. Like this appearance, this visual appearance, is the one appearance always happening, to the extent it doesn't even need to happen because it already is just now. And it creates, the mind augments this reality on top of it through thought, through a projection that says that out of my head, this head is moving, this vision is changing in the way that the mind thinks it is in time. And now I'm looking over there, and I was looking over there a minute ago, and then I moved back, and I'm moving in time, and now I'm looking over here, and I was looking over here before a moment ago, but none of that in experience is actually happening. It's a follow-on of the mind. Same with the sounds. There's only ever the one sound. That's not really a good way to describe it, even, because it doesn't make sense, but there's just sound. There's just, I could say the one sound, but the one sound would be relative to multiple sounds, as in we're counting one. But it's not like that, it's just the one appearance. And it's always this, it's always right now. And whatever narrative is imputed onto that by the mind is in time, and it's viewed from a position. Same with thought. So there's experience, and then there's mine experience. There's this appearance, then there's my version of this appearance. There's sound, and then there's me hearing the sound. The experience comes first, the mind comes after, but the mind makes it look like the me comes first, and then the experience comes after. But if you really pay attention, it's not happening like that. The mind comes after. The experience, the appearance is already here. The thoughts, all that, are already here. What makes it look like my thoughts is something that kind of comes after the thought experience, let's say in time, or follows it along in time. That's a co-arising of a subject that this is happening to, suggested in the thought experience. That's how I could describe it. Very weird. Very weird. So, W. Thomas says, this is in response to non-duality doesn't fix everything. Are you kidding? It doesn't fix anything. No, it doesn't fix anything, because it doesn't need to fix anything. It can't be used to fix anything by a person, of course. That would just be an illusion. That would just be a version of seeking. So it doesn't need to fix anything, because everything is perfect as it is in this immediate. And the idea of using non-duality to fix something is misleading. It's if things change in the relative, and in retrospect, the character, the mind, can say, like for example in my own case, I could easily say non-duality, this recognition, awakening, was pivotal in the recovery from addiction. But ultimately, is that true? No, of course not. That's just a framing, that's just a story, that's just a position. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have its own relative reality, and it doesn't mean that I can describe the story of that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't mean that that story can't be helpful or interesting or entertaining. But ultimately, did non-duality cure my addiction for me? No. Couldn't say that's true. So yeah, you're right. Right. So Emily Zena says, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, this is the third time my message has disappeared. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Either the universe doesn't want me to contact you, or I'm very bad with technology. Probably the latter. I think it's neither of those. I think it's actually YouTube is glitchy as fuck. It's fascinating how somatic therapy has been so central to your experience and makes sense from what I can tell. So it's not a conscious version of somatic therapy applied with a goal in mind. I just, in retrospect, noted that I talked a lot about the senses. I talked a lot about a kind of Vipassana type approach, sensation, emotion, physical sensation, the body. And I was talking about how I totally get the somatic therapy thing and why it can be effective, because that was pretty much my experience to an extent with that link between thoughts and emotions, between physicality and psychology, let's say. Definitely there's something there that you could talk about and say that there is a form of physical or energetic healing that happens, and it comes with physical experience as well, as this recognition, as this awakening, whatever you want to call it. As the disidentification from the ownership or the personal version of experience, as that kind of dismantles, there are physical effects that I'd noticed. I'm just a big ball of blocked energy, emotion that I can't seem to work out how to free. I would just suggest that yeah, that might relatively be true, but is it ultimately, is that actually true? What is it that's telling you that that's the case, that's true? Because for myself, I noticed that there was the emotion, the experience of emotion is real, you could say. The experience of thought is real. There's some function of identification, of belief, of ownership there that isn't particularly real, it turns out. And it seems to be the way emotion and thought is contextualized into a personal ownership with belief about what it means for me and so on. That whole narrative thing starts off being really messy, but as we disidentify from the narrative, from thought, it seems to have the effect of, or it did in my experience, of freeing up the emotional material that might have been, I know what you mean by this, might have been like held somewhere in the body, or in experience somewhere, in the sensations somewhere, this congealing, this holding, that feels quite physical, but it also doesn't. It feels quite emotional, but it also doesn't. It feels quite psychological all at the same time. When we really look at that and break that down, there's something that's holding all this together into a seeming separate me that carries this all around. And the more we dismantle that, the more what's there expresses, what's here expresses. And I described before, I'm not talking about chakras and stuff, I don't know much about that, but definitely there's something in that, as well as the somatic therapy. There was areas in the body where it seemed to be, there were symptoms and there were emotions felt in those areas, and as experience expanded, as, let's say, identity, bad way to put it, expanded, everything became more airy, everything became less defined, more transparent, and then these emotions were allowed the chance to flow. But equally, it was clear that they were being avoided by this, whatever that energetic function, narrative function is, of keeping the emotions congealed, keeping ownership of them, carrying them around, and then like using like some form of narrative confirmation bias to reinforce it as an active thing that we were doing. And in my experience, that never had to be figured out with a following of the narrative. I mean, there are certain therapies that would do that, and I don't know how to do that, and I'm sure that that's effective. But for myself, I'm not saying this will be the case for anyone else, just in my own experience, I didn't have to go into the narrative and go into my past and figure stuff out. Bits of that came up spontaneously, but it was more what is being expressed now, what is the experience now, what is the sensation, what is the emotion now, and what are the thoughts saying about it, what are the beliefs saying about it. Speaking of physical stuff, back's really tight. So like for example, like I'm unfortunately going to do the Belfast Marathon. It's a relay though, so it's like 10k, 11k or something like that per leg. Before there would be a narrative that basically narrated that entire thing, the running the marathon, like where am I, where's the next checkpoint, look at how's my time, how am I comparing to these other people, I'm running this thing, I need to get a good time so that I feel good about myself, blah 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 blah. And physically it all appeared as the separate me running alongside a bunch of other separate me's in a in a race. But I don't know where I'm going with this, but that experience now, that running now, is essentially just so much more interesting, so much more beautiful, so much more if there's a you, it's in the back seat. The sensation is expanded out to the extent that all of this appearance is just moving through and within itself. The scenery, the other people are all moving through whatever this is, that it has no borders and definitions, and it just does itself, it just moves itself. There's no wee guy in the middle, like, you know, with his narrative, like carrying that narrative through as a separate thing. And it's so much more expressive, so much more artistic, so much more mysterious and fascinating, and easy and enjoyable. Pardon me. just an ever-changing appearance, transforming in a timeless way, in an effortless way, and the sensations are full on. I hesitate to say this, right, but if anyone's ever done MDMA, I think I said this before, MDMA, that there, as an experience, you could say that there are a lot of similarities there with with the say in this experience of running, an experience of walking, an experience of anything, the clarity and the intensity, the radiance of the sensations are just so immense, in comparison to any sort of like mind talking narrative. I mean, the thoughts become so much less overt, so ethereal, so not consciously engaged with from a subjective position, that they just don't matter anymore. The assumptions about this physical experience as being a body separate from this world just don't matter anymore. So it can all just be what it is, with complete immersion, complete relaxation, and that experience is healing. It's amazing. The universe carries itself without effort. The flow state is unbelievable, but it's inherent. The awareness is inherent. The experiences itself without any distinction or boundary. So I guess I'm saying this to illustrate the difference between energetically and experientially, between the way of experiencing, let's say, before as a separate person, in comparison to the experience as it is without that separate person central to it. It's so different. It's so different. But what makes it look like the latter is a bunch of beliefs and narratives and energetic ownership of sensation and thought and emotion. And the whatever I explained it the first time, I think I said the latter there. And it just gets so simple. It gets more and more simple. So at the start there's a lot of confusion about what should I do this, should I do that, and then it just, as time goes on, let's say, it becomes more intuitive, it becomes more simple, and a lot of that's just let go as added to, coming after, suggesting ownership of, suggesting control and autonomy. So then you can just take a back seat with things, and if you end up in one type of therapy, circumstance you into that, and in that there might be involved decision making and discernment and so on, then what the narrative says about it isn't so important, unless at a large scale. Let's go back to the comment. So, work out how to free energy, emotion. Yeah, I think I just talked about that. I'm based in London and Wales a bit. I would love to come to you for counselling. I'm not a practicing counsellor. I felt such peace and comfort in the first moments of listening to your channel, and any resources at all would be so much appreciated. There's a little old granny woman driving like a really souped up sports car there, and it's very loud. Yeah, I can send you some, if you're in the UK, I can send you some resources. The resources I have handy are all based in Northern Ireland, but I'll have a look into it and I'll see what I can find. Even if I had loads of money, I can't seem to access that from my research. It looks like the best bet, either something very somatic based or internal family systems, was shown to not only halt but change screen, but reverse rheumatoid arthritis in a recent study. That's amazing. Which in my book is downright miraculous. Yeah, it's wild. Maybe I should email you. I see you email in the call. Yeah, send me an email. In a few weeks, because my life is incredibly up in the air at the moment, and I'm not sure what you mean about the counselling, but I'd be happy to pay what I could, and apologies if I misunderstood. Yeah, I'm not a practicing counsellor. I've done some training, so I'm qualified, but I'm not fully qualified to practice. So under that umbrella, that would be malpractice. But I'm happy just to talk to anyone about. And I've talked to loads of people, but I mean, I wouldn't expect anything. And people have a tendency, it's just the tendency is there to pin things on me. I don't say that in a negative way, but it's like I've been. People have expectations and stuff. People have their own narratives and stuff, and people see a character. And I've had instances where people have become really, really angry at me, and it's calmed down because they've associated me as a character with what they're going through, because I happen to be talking to them at that time. The same, like when number of times when people have had this recognition and it's hit them full on, and then they've done the same thing but opposite. They've associated with me, and they've thanked me, or they've offered me gifts and stuff like that, and it's nice, and the other one seems not so nice, but it's just the same thing, and it's not about me, it's all about you. And I wouldn't go into this expecting anything, and based on assumptions about what this means for you and what this means about me as I relate to you, and so on. I wouldn't, like I always say, like whatever I say, don't believe it. Don't think that I'm saying things that are right or correct, and maybe it's just the way I speak. It maybe comes across as I'm trying to teach something, and if there is a message, it's your own experience. Confirm what I'm saying in your own experience, but don't use what I'm saying to confirm it. Just explore your own experience, and it's all yours. It's all available, and it's nothing to do with me. Starts off as a very personal journey, a very a willingness to look within, a willingness to be open and authentic and honest with yourself, and authentically explore what feels like you. And this is certainly not an alternative to conventional therapies and stuff like that. The counselling, CBT, psychotherapy, IFS and stuff like that, somatic therapies, TRE, things like that. Like, you know, these all, this is just a guess, right? But I assume that if I was to go on a training, if I was to go on an academic exploration and go and formally learn some of these things, I would notice what I talk about. I would just note that what I talk about would be clearly manifesting through this in whatever way, through these therapies in whatever way. And I'm not saying that I couldn't say that that's the only reason that they are effective, but that I could just tell you that's probably what I would see. When I did counselling training, all I could see was some very simple inclination, some very simple expression of softening in the boundaries of separation and the connection, present, authentic connection with yourself, which is other people. That was very clear to me. Various forms of self-inquiry, at various, you could say, levels, various forms of authentic emotional expression. Various forms of releasing or externalizing in some way, usually verbal, an internal narrative. So getting it out of your head, getting it out of this separate bubble, this separate internal discrete space that we exist in and we suffer in. So they're all valuable, of course. So let's see what the next one is. But yeah, send me an email. So Jared Carlson Ripple says, "Thank you, David. What we are talking about is before that thought. This was very helpful. I am not the mind. I was laughing when you said that because I've been waiting for someone to tell me that besides myself. I'll meditate on this. Thank you, David. This makes everything much more simple." So yeah, you are not the mind. Or you could say that everything in experience is mind. Or everything in your experience is you. But then that invalidates the personal identity, the separate identity part of it. Because we really feel like a mind, we really feel like a thought entity that exists in a narrative that relates to other things to find its own value, to validate itself, that is separate, that is unconnected and independent. And none of that's true. That's just a story. And that'll never be found from that mind position. That'll never be... It's not that... The mind does change, but that's not the recognition. The recognition is. And then as that clarifies, the mind's doubts, just the belief in that diminishes. The mind does change. It's not like the mind is an enemy. It's not like the mind is this thing that has to be resisted. The mind is part of it too. The illusion of self is part of it too, even though it's an illusion. Just only seems to be what it is when it's not investigated, or when it's assumed, or when the assumptions of time, distance, separation are continually confirmed through thought, aren't looked at, aren't broken down, and there's the ability to slow down. There isn't. The momentum's just carrying this thing on. So I remember your previous comment. I can't remember what you said in it, but I remember I got the sense that there was an intuition there that based on what you were saying, there's like you can ask me things, but like you just in the question, the answer was there. Like you just know you're part of you just knows what to do, and the mind will protest about it. The mind will complicate things, but without that belief, it's just thoughts, and then the intuition just carries us, and it's very simple. It's very natural. It becomes fascinating in a different way, not because you can analyse it and think about it and talk about it to your peers, but because the directness of it is here all the time, and it's fascinating. It's so deep and mysterious. And there's for me, after this recognition, like you said, you meditate on this. After this recognition, it becomes so enjoyable just to exist, just to not be continually qualified by in value by the momentum of the thoughts and their values and time and story. To just sit in this existence, to just be without content. It becomes the most enjoyable thing you can do, and the good thing about that is you don't need to get in it. It's inherent. Like the most enjoyable thing in life is just life itself, the inherent isness of life. And it's like the greatest gift, the greatest discovery that you can make, because then you don't have to chase all these things. You don't even have to chase awakening. It's just inherent, and the access to that is infinite, is all the time. It doesn't have to be qualified by circumstances or even intention. These things just get very peaceful. Anyway, I'm going to have to go, but I will talk to you next time. If anyone can work out what's going on with the comments, you can let me know, because I'm not very good at this stuff. But I will see you next time.